Please do not watch this channel. But if you insist, you should watch it sooner rather than later, before they delete it. And watch it at your own risk. The authorities cannot find out about it. Once you watch it, you'll understand why. Today, I'll tell you something I don't want you to share with anybody. Before I do that, please hit subscribe and the notification button with the bell. I haven't even told any of my close friends and family what you're about to hear. They'd either think I am crazy, or they'd want to follow in my footsteps, which wouldn't be good for them. It will be our little secret. I don't want you to spread the word because what I do is probably not very legal, let's put it that way, but it definitely works. This recording is also my testimony, in case something happens to me. The people I've been associating with might not be happy about me disclosing their business model, one that operates in a shadow economy. I am a regular guy living in Vancouver, Canada, in one of the most expensive cities in the world. I am telling this story because 3 years ago, I was in a terrible situation, a life-changing situation. And I want to make sure you don't make the same mistakes I did. Consider yourselves warned, dear followers. After finishing university and having worked in a few jobs, ending with a good career, I hope to buy my own house or condo. At first it looked very promising. I was able to save some money for a down payment and planned to buy my first place within 2 years' time. But everything changed when COVID hit, and you already know the rest. Property prices rose to astronomical heights, and all my plans imploded, like Stockton Rush's submersible when he was looking for the Titanic. I've had enough the empty words and promises of our Instagram politicians whose families are perfectly fine thanks to their connections and endless resources. These bad politicians divided our society into two groups, those who own property and those who will probably rent forever with a bonus of being homeless in the end. Unfortunately, I was in the second group, one of the last-minute would-be buyers who missed that train. The first lucky group could buy themselves a second property to rent out, and they could charge as much as they wanted to that second group every day, higher and higher rent. All this happens under our useless government watch. The scissors keep opening more and more as time passes. I am really fed up with our politicians. Do you think they are interested in doing something reasonable to reverse the situation? No, because they themselves are part of the problem. They are in the first group, taking advantage of buying and renting extra properties. So why would they cut themselves and their families off from this lucrative source of extra income? Think! What about introducing caps on rent, like they do in Vienna? Oh no, it would be very bad for the economy, they say. But try to read between the lines. They mean their own family economy and their oligarch corporate friends' economy. Do you think the economy in Vienna crumbled because of rent caps? Not at all. The opposite is true. Vienna has the highest standard of living in the world. Yes, it's clear that keeping young people and almost half of the population in check by maintaining their half-homeless status is beneficial for politicians. It is easier to manipulate and brainwash desperate citizens, and they use all the available tools to achieve that goal. Their media support the narrative about a bad economy, claiming that it's better to maintain the status quo. Now, you probably understand my frustration and the reasons behind my decision to go my own unique path. I departed from being a good citizen, as it is officially understood, a law-abiding individual with an excellent credit score, and entered an underground world with its own rules. Some would say I followed a criminal path. I do not see it as that dramatic. Sure, I broke a few rules, but nobody got hurt and nobody even knew they were used. I did it for a good purpose and in the public interest, I would add. Now I've reached the point of no return. I know too much, and I've become a liability for some people. This is our politicians' fault. They created the system which helps them, and I am not willing to play by their rules anymore. I live a double life. My work life is no different than any other person's life, but everything changes when I finish work at 5 p.m. I created my own life with my own rules to protect myself and my future family. My survival instinct kicked in. It all started the day I received a text from my landlord. He wrote, "My wife and I are getting old and we decided to sell the condo. Are you interested in buying it?" Well, my first thought was about the irony of his question. He must have thought I was a volunteer renter, someone with enough money to buy my own place, but decided to donate 50% of my salary to him and his lovely wife every month. I didn't believe they were planning to sell it, not when the market rent was double what I was paying. Now they decided to kick me out? I knew the day would come, however. I was hoping I had 2 or 3 years. In fact, my landlord's question meant this: "We are selling the condo and you have to move out." I knew that by law he couldn't kick me out in order to sell it. He had to sell it with me in it, like when a pet shop sells little budgies in cages. Once a buyer bought the property, they could give me notice. That's how it works. I could educate my landlord, however that might mean war. He knew the rules for sure, he was just trying. Maybe he thought I was stupid. It is hard to live in limbo. It would not be easy to live in my landlord's property against his will and pretend that my life is normal. I am not that type. I'd rather bite the bullet and move on. That's why I get the worst shifts at work and the most miserable clients in my books. I have to say it again. My survival instinct kicked in. There was no way that I could pay 100% of my salary for my rent. How would I survive? I would have to find a second job or a roommate or move to another part of the country. None of these solutions appealed to me. Then I got an idea. I worked for a company with a nice office space in a downtown high-rise. I had a big cubicle and there was a fully equipped kitchen, washrooms, and even a shower for people who bike to work. By the way, I call them organ donors. Our office was basically like a big condo, a loft. Fantastic. It could be my new rental. It was perfectly suitable for what I needed, and I got a bonus. I wouldn't have to commute. I had to solve some little details, like where to keep my personal belongings during business hours, or what to use as my mailing address. But I knew I could make it work. By the time I ended my tenancy and returned the keys to my landlord, I had all the details for my new dream life perfectly planned. I have to emphasize, this was loft living for free. I thought I could save more money for a down payment. I thought I was simply a genius. I was so proud of myself. When D-Day came, I arrived at the office before anybody else so they wouldn't see my big travel bag. I'd bought a decent size but not too oversized, so it could fit in my cabinet. I left my other belongings in my SUV parked in the parkade across the street. I did not do much work that day. I was a little bit nervous. How would I manage everything? At the end of the day, I had to pretend I had lots of work to explain my staying late. Then I had to hide in the washroom and wait until the last person left and set the door alarm. Everything went as planned. The last person left, and I came out of hiding to make my bed, which consisted of a sleeping bag and a small pillow. I took a shower and called a friend, but didn't mention my new accommodation. He would have thought I was weird. Then I watched some videos on my smartphone and fell asleep. Before that, though, I made sure I set the alarm to 5:30 in case somebody came early to work. That would give me time to shave and wash. I woke up at 5:30, shaved, brushed my teeth, and did my other usual morning procedures. Then I waited in the bathroom for the day's first arrival to disarm the alarm so I could sneak out and grab something to eat. After the arrival of the first employee, I went out to the local McDonald's for breakfast and coffee. What an accomplishment, I said to myself. I had started to live my life according to my own rules, strange and unique. A few weeks passed and I got used to my new routine. But before long, I started missing a big portion of my freedom. Staying at my new home after work deleted my social life. That was the price of free accommodation. My colleagues left for home, while I stayed locked inside the office. It slowly became my part-time prison. My limited options for activities included watching Netflix on my phone, exercising, or showering. After some time, these were not enough. Of course, I went out once in a while to meet with my friends, On those nights, I'd get back late, open the office, disarm the alarm, then arm it back from the inside and pretend that I'd left. The next day, if anyone asked, I'd explain that I'd forgotten something important at work and had to go back and pick it up. However, this card could be played only once or twice a year in order not to raise suspicion. Anything out of the ordinary happening regularly would have raised red flags. Then there were unexpected situations which brought stress and hypervigilance to my life. One night, when I was almost asleep, some people entered the office and I had to hide underneath my desk. It turned out to be our VP Brody with my colleague Vivian. They began having sex in our CEO's office. Really? Why his office? I guess the possibility of being caught somehow added spice, which enhanced their romantic experience. Beside observing that Vivian wasn't wearing underwear, I wondered if Brody's wife knew she'd committed to an open marriage. Oops. I didn't watch long, I swear. I am not a voyeur, come on. I was impressed by how well they'd been able to hide their relationship at work. I'd always thought they didn't like each other. In another instance, I forgot to charge my phone. The battery died overnight and my alarm did not sound. I only woke up because somebody opened the door. Our CEO. It was already too late to hide, he'd heard me snoring. He asked loudly if somebody was there and was coming toward my cubicle. Thank God my colleague's ugly office cat jumped from her desk, so the CEO stopped investigating. In general, I'm not a cat person, but this cat saved my career. Kudos to her! Given the strange combination of stress and boredom, I came to realize that life in the office was not for me, and started exploring other options. Fortunately, I didn't have to wait long. I bumped into an old high school classmate, Donald, who happened to be a real estate agent. For as long as I've known Donald, his life was balancing between right and wrong, between the law and conmanship. I mentioned to him that I was looking for a condo to rent. Of course, I did not mention that I lived in the office. He gave me a business card. "Call these people," he said. "They will find you something, and it will be below the market rent for sure, I guarantee." How could he be so sure, I wondered. The next day, I called the number. A gentleman on the other end wanted to meet me in person first, to discuss my expectations. His name was Ray. We set an appointment for that afternoon and talked for about an hour. I somehow got the impression that Ray understood me, like I'd known him for years. He got my situation. We clicked, so I dropped my guard and explained everything, the too expensive rents on the market, and my unorthodox approach to saving money. At that time, I did not even imagine how much more unorthodox Ray was than me. "We can offer you anything you want," he said. From a storage locker to the most luxurious condos on the highest floors of the Paradox Hotel and Shangri-La. He explained that the only downside was that most rental periods would be short-term, ranging from 1 week to 6 months maximum. Then he showed me the price list. Wow, I could not believe my eyes. The rent for the most luxurious furnished condos downtown was even less than my previous condo. "How do you do that?" I asked him, but he only smiled like he'd invented the electric vehicle. We agreed that I would move into a 1-bedroom condo in downtown Vancouver in 2 days. I paid the rent up front for 3 weeks. One good thing about living in the office was that I'd managed to save some money. I was excited. Finally, I would get back to normal, or at least a short-term normal. After work, an agent of Ray's company was waiting for me in the lobby of a modern condo building. We shook hands, and then we took an elevator to the 15th floor. In fact, 15 was just a nickname. It was actually the 13th floor. But floors 13 and 14 were left out to help superstitious people cope with the anxiety of living on floors with unlucky numbers. The agent was not superstitious. He bravely opened the door and showed me the place. It looked beautiful. Big windows with an ocean view. I was happy. Ray's agent explained the rules and emphasized one important thing. When I left in 3 weeks, everything had to stay exactly as it was. He gave me 10 photographs. They showed every room, including the kitchen, washroom, washing machine, and hallway. You have to make sure everything is in the same place, nothing is broken, nothing is lost, he said. I was a little surprised at how anxious he was about it. Kind of unusual for this type of business, but I respected that. Since I am a real neat freak myself, this was a simple and easily achievable condition. I went to bed early and left my blinds open. Beautiful view, I kept repeating to myself, and I fell asleep while counting the boats in the bay. I woke up to my phone ringing. It must have been ringing for quite some time, as I'd been dreaming about somebody calling me before I woke up. I picked up. It was Ray. You have to leave immediately, he said firmly. My people will come to pick you up in 5 minutes. I tried to ask questions, but he hung up. What's going on? I muttered while packing my stuff. It was a good thing I'd been too tired to unpack much the night before. I was finished packing when somebody knocked on the door. Then 2 guys unlocked it and entered. One was bald and the other one had a mole on his face. You have to come with us, the bald guy said. The other guy examined the photographs they'd given me and began putting every item in the room where it was before I started living there, if I can call it living. I left with the bald guy, who said in the elevator that we had to leave because the owners were coming back. What? I asked him. I paid rent, and suddenly they changed their mind and don't want to rent it? The surprise on his face raised my suspicion. It seemed like the owners did not even know about their place being rented. Unbelievable. That's why the rent was so low, and that's why the guy with the mole was so anxious about putting everything back in place. The bald guy was explaining to me that this was an emergency situation which didn't happen very often. He had a plan B for me. Unbelievable, it was a storage locker. We really apologize, he said. We will reimburse you. You will be living 1 week free of charge in another condo you will choose from our list tomorrow. Ray will talk to you, he added. As we spoke, the bald guy led me to another building. In the elevator, he pressed P4. 2 minutes later, we were standing in front of a storage locker that held a pile of Christmas decorations, some outdoor gear, and a sofa. You will sleep here tonight, he said, and then hurried away, leaving me standing there alone. It had been a long and stressful day. I closed the locker door and fell asleep on the sofa right away, hoping that tomorrow I would be lying in a comfortable bed. I was sleeping well and even dreaming. I forgot most of it, but somehow I could not get a barking dog out of my dream. It was so annoying that I woke up. The barking continued. This time it sounded real and was getting closer. No wonder I could not stop dreaming about it. I couldn't see my watch, but it felt like the middle of the night. I poked my head out of the locker and noticed that the dog, a German Shepherd, was coming closer, dog step by dog step, and bringing a security guy with him. I pretended that I was the locker's owner and acted like I was looking for something. I dragged out a dusty old Christmas tree, a box of Christmas decorations, and a camping barbecue. To dissolve any suspicion, I decided to be proactive and started a conversation with the guard. What is the name of your dog? How old is he? The dog's name was Jasper, and he was 15 years old. I'm no dog specialist, but 15 years seemed very old to me for a dog. It was a German Shepherd. He was barely walking, but still serving with dignity, helping discovering intruders like me. I played my role very well, and the security guy didn't seem curious. Finally, the two of them continued on their rounds, and I could enjoy my well-deserved rest. The next morning, the mole guy came to pick me up and drive me to Ray's office. Ray was waiting. He welcomed me and apologized for what had happened the day before. Here is the list of condos you can choose from, he said. We'll give you 1 week free of charge. No, 10 days free of charge to reimburse you for your pain and suffering, he added. I was wondering how he could guarantee that a similar situation wouldn't happen again. Well, the list I just gave you is an A list. These are our top suppliers, even though they don't know their places are being rented. God bless them. They will go to heaven for offering their resources and opening their arms to people who are not that fortunate. This business is even nature-friendly, since if we use the empty condos, fewer condos need to be built. When they are out, other people are in. When they are in, other people are out. How simple is that? Ray also explained that his A-list contained the suppliers who would be gone for more than 6 months, with no risk that they would return sooner. Feeling hopeful, I picked a 2-bedroom condo with an ocean view again. I simply liked the ocean. Ray told me that the owners were one of the richest family in Vancouver. They were in Australia and would be returning in 9 months. Bingo! Ray was in a talking mode and suggested going for brunch to a restaurant called Joe Fortes, not far from his office. We continued talking while eating oysters and egg bennies and sipping Bloody Caesars. Norman told me that you figured out how we operate, he said. That's how I learned the bald guy's name was Norman. Since you already know so much, I'll explain everything to you. I'm not really interested in any more details, I said. I only want to rent a condo and live peacefully. Don't say anything more. La 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 la. I covered my ears to emphasize that I meant it. Ray continued, It doesn't matter now. As you already know, we rent places. Only the owners don't know about it. Of course, we do not pay taxes to the government, or only a minimum, since our business is officially registered in Canada. Our tax dollars are better used in our hands than in the government's pockets. Ray was unstoppable. He told me about the employees he called researchers. They looked for empty places where the owners would be gone for a prolonged period of time. The researchers were social media gurus. They followed multiple media and focused on vacation posts. People who posted photographs and disclosed more than is safe then became suppliers if they fulfilled certain criteria. They had to be gone for at least 10 days. The gold was if somebody was gone for a few months. The researchers were the brains of Ray's company. They were like actuaries in insurance companies. They assessed the risks, collected important data, and sometimes contracted private detectives if a potential supplier was too good to let go, but more data needed to be collected. The other group of Ray's employees were producers. They searched for new clients like me. I then realized that my ex-classmate Donald was in fact a producer as well. How had he known I was looking to rent before I told him that? That was a mystery. I'd told a few friends, so maybe the word of mouth reached his sensors. That would mean that our meeting wasn't just a coincidence. He must have been waiting around the corner for me. Wow. Ray's company also employed service staff, like photographers to take pictures of the place before it was rented, and cleaners and janitors to make sure the place was put back exactly as it was after the owner left and before it was rented. The properties were divided in 3 categories: A, B, and C. A's were the most luxurious properties, with owners gone for more than 6 months. B's were regular condos whose owners gone for more than a month. And C's were the storage lockers, closets, broken elevators, or regular properties whose owners were gone for only 2 or 3 weeks. That's how Ray explained it to me. Ray, why are you telling me all your secrets? I said. Now I know too much. Aren't you worried? Ray smiled, and I wished I didn't have to hear his next words. Now you cannot ever leave us. He made it sound like a joke, but I knew he was dead serious. He almost sounded like Vito Corleone from The Godfather. Nothing you want to have in your life, but the most important part was about to come. Work for me as a producer. You won't have to pay rent, he said. This was a nightmare. How could I get out of it? I tried to think of an escape strategy quickly. Vito, I started. Damn, what was I saying? I mean, Ray, I am not looking for a job. I like my career, and I am not planning to change it. Well, I won't mention it again, but my offer will be open whenever you're ready, he said. We can make lots of money together. At that, he ended the subject. Well, serious criminals have to make huge amounts of money in a short period of time because their life expectancy is shorter than the general population's lifespan. Let's be honest about it. Some might live longer, but usually behind bars. After our conversation at Joe Fortes, Ray never mentioned his job offer again, but its watermark showed up on every new page we turned. It lingered there all the time. He basically involved me in his business. and I automatically became his accomplice. The day he told me about his criminal organization was the only time, call it a window of opportunity, when I could have gone to the police and reported him. But that would have meant that I would have to pay market rent to a traditional landlord, which I wanted to avoid at all costs. And who knows what would have happened to me if I'd gone to the police. I am sure Ray has his own enforcers who would ensure I disappeared with no trace. The temptations to pay lower rent and to fight the government were stronger than anything else. I became Ray's long-term customer for years. Ray is a smart guy. There is no doubt about that. If he'd used his brain to create something within the brackets of legality, he still would have been rich. However, his guerrilla personality wouldn't have allowed that. In that way, we were very alike. He became the Walter White of the rental industry. The question was whether I would have been his assistant, his Jesse Pinkman. We know how that ended. Walter was killed and Jesse moved to Alaska with the new identity. That is not what I wanted. Or it might be too harsh to compare Ray with Walter White. Maybe he deserves something better. He might well be Robin Hood, who took from those who had enough and gave to those who needed some help. I can't believe that now I've been paying low rents for more than 3 years. Most of the time it's been fine. I prefer condos, not houses. A's or B's. I usually rent units in downtown on higher floors with big windows, preferably with an ocean view. I had only one incident after the one involving Norman and the mole guy. I was inside a condo and suddenly I heard keys in the lock and somebody trying to open the door. I jumped into a closet and closed the sliding door. Thank God I was able to manage it in a split second. 5 men entered the condo, sat in the living room and started chatting. They sounded upset. I heard them counting the dollar bills. They discussed some deals. As they counted the money, I slowly got the big picture. These were criminals. It was drug money. I sat in the closet and realized that if they found me, it would be game over for me. They did not seem to own the place, as they never noticed that I'd moved stuff around. Chairs were in the corner and the desk was in the middle of the living room, so I could have better light when working. What bothered me most was that they found my Blue Label Johnny Walker scotch in the kitchen and started drinking it like it was theirs. Ray would have to reimburse me for that, and by the way, how come he hadn't warned me they were coming? I calmly checked my phone in the closet. Yeah, he'd called me 6 times, but my phone was on mute, damn it. Ray's researchers had somehow failed to flag that this condo obviously involved organized crime. He was playing with fire. The criminals scamming criminals might not end well. I wasn't able to sleep in the closet, as I would have snored, so I was up all night. Finally, early in the morning, the criminals left. I then packed my stuff and left shortly after. I did not want to spend 1 extra second in that place. I called Ray. He was expecting my call, no wonder. I could hear he was relieved that I was fine. "What is going on, Ray?" I asked him. "Man, you wouldn't believe," he said, obviously upset. "It seems we have competition. There is another entity tracking temporarily unoccupied properties in Vancouver. It looks like they use the properties as their meeting places to split the profit from drug and weapon deals." Well, that explained why the guys were not upset about the furniture I'd moved or my belongings being all over the place. But how come they drank my scotch? Weren't they concerned about being later discovered by the owner? It seems like they didn't care about it. They just used each property one time, then moved to another one. That meant Ray's business had a problem. Sooner or later the owners would call the police, who'd investigate. They might cross Ray's path too. He was a smart guy. I'm sure he realized that. But that night in the closet was the last straw. The last 3 years, while living in Ray's condos, I'd been able to save money for my down payment. Realizing that the situation was a little bit too stressful for me, I decided to move on and buy my own condo. Now that I've told you everything, I'm sure you understand my situation and can see why I don't want you to tell anybody. This has to stay between us, between myself and you, my followers. I am not sure how to tell Ray about departing his organization. He considers me one of the shareholders and basically a part of his family. A crime family. When I think of his frightening words about me not ever leaving, I get scared. Do you have any suggestions how I should handle this situation and how to tell Ray? Please leave me a comment below with your advice. What would you do? Thank you. P.S. And by the way, do not copy this video because I will find you. Or Ray's people will find you and it will not be good. That's an order. Bye. See you in my next video.